Welcome to another episode of The Right Stuff, a co-production of Pack 14 and the Writer's Block of the Eastern Shore. My name's Andy Nunez. My co-host is Johnny Hayes. You'll be seeing both of us on Pack 14 many times over the coming months. Today, though, I have a very special guest in the studio. It's my own publisher, Arline Chase. Arline, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Andy. It's a pleasure for me.
Well, I know, and I'm glad you're able to come down to see us from Cambridge, where you're located. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you were born, where you came up, went to school, things like that.
I was born in Cambridge. I went to Salisbury State. I never had sense enough to leave. I love this place.
Well, sounds good to me. I could have left. I didn't leave either. It's just the Eastern Shore is a great place to live, and it's a great place to write. So tell us, what got you started in writing?
Well, I always dreamed about writing. I wanted to be a writer when I grew up. And then one day I turned 40 and I said, if I don't start soon, it'll be too late. So I went home and I told my mother, look, I'm gonna be a writer now. I'm going to study it and I'm gonna work at it and I'm gonna really do it. And she said, who do you think you are? And that was pretty much the reaction to my decision to become a writer. But I have written 5 books, and I have published more than 350 books, and I'm still going strong.
Okay.
Some people never come to their senses.
Yeah, I know, and I'm one of them. Okay. So what was your first break, though? How did you first get your writing in print?
I heard about an online publisher called eBooks on the Net, and that publisher, Connie Foster, was publishing a friend of mine, and he said, send her your book. Well, I'd sent it everywhere else, and nobody wanted it. So I sent it to Connie, expecting to wait the traditional 6 months before I heard a word. And the next morning I had email from her, and she said, darn, this is the best book I've read in 10 years. Naturally, I thought she was the best publisher in the world, and she was very good to me.
That sounds like it. That's fantastic. So you started out actually in electronic versions.
With electronic books, yes.
And what was your first book about?
My first book was about, my first book was Kill Raven. Mm-hmm. Actually, that was the first thing I wrote. I wrote a novella called The Drowned Land, which is set locally, and it's about the island culture, which is a tradition in my family. And Kill Raven is loosely based on family history, but it's very loosely based. Mm-hmm. So I sent that to Connie, and she loved it. But Connie became ill, and she got too sick to continue. I had been her best-selling author for 2 years, and she said, look, take this company over, be a publisher. And I said, I don't know a thing about publishing. And she said, that's all right. It's not brain surgery.
That was easy for her to say. She was the publisher. So let's jump. So you jumped all of a sudden in just a very short space of time from being a newly minted author. Suddenly, you're owning your own publishing company. Now, and you did the ebook versions. How many titles did you take over when ebooks fell into your hands?
Connie had about 200 books on the site, but they were not all her books because she had formed a co-op with other publishers that each of them would market each other's books. Connie was way ahead of her time. She was the first publisher to go into POD publishing.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
We will. It's a good thing. It's a green thing.
Right.
She was the first to multi-market on many different sites, and she practically invented distributing your ebooks to other stores. So I really liked her concepts, and I've tried to keep them alive. Connie did pass away in 1998.
Okay, all right. Well,
But her books are still on the site, and
yay.
her tradition lives
Lives
on.
on. That's the important thing. So she was doing a print on demand in conjunction with ebooks when you took over at that point?
Yes, she had already published 2 of my books in print.
Okay. And I know you had a series, the Spirit series, because I've got a copy of Spirit of Fire. Tell us a little bit about that series.
Well, I used to belong to an online group called Mystery Writers Forum, and they were all talking, series were hot. This was 1998. And they said, why don't you write a series? And I thought, well, I had these characters. I had invented in a workshop with Carolyn Wheat. I don't know if you read her mysteries, but she is a good writer.
Okay. Look her up online, folks. Carolyn Wheat.
Carolyn Wheat. She wrote Real Kills and a bunch of other stuff. So she had said, think about the most interesting person you've met in the last year and base your character on them. And I had met a very interesting woman when I was doing some work at the state hospital in Cambridge with their patients library. And she was a patient there. She had been institutionalized all her life, and she was the most psychic person I had ever met. This woman's life was a tragedy, but I took her circumstances, her psychic abilities, and I gave them to someone who was in a completely different background, a different time, the daughter of a very wealthy family, but she has these psychic abilities that she can't control. And over the course of the 4 books, she learns to control them, which is something that the real person never did learn to do. But in the books, of course, it's more interesting as she does.
Well, yeah, and it makes for a happier ending at
Sure
some
does.
point, and you have some anticipation that eventually things are going to be all right.
So, yeah, I put her in the Victorian era, and I made her parents wealthy, so, you know, they hid people in the attic. They didn't institutionalize them.
Right.
They dealt with it and pretended it wasn't there. So she's an interesting person, though, and all the psychic things she does were based on this woman that I knew, who was patient, whose name I'll never say, but she was a wonderful person.
Okay, so you published these series. You got into the ebooks on the net, which also had a print-on-demand arm.
Yes.
And that went on for a few years, and then you joined the Writer's Block.
I was a member of Writer's Block from day one.
Day one, okay.
That was before I became published.
Okay.
Long time ago.
Long time before that, so obviously the Writer's Block helped you off as a struggling writer.
Absolutely. Gianni has been a wonderful friend to me, and I just can't say how much this organization has done to give me encouragement when I was down, to give me information when I needed it. There are so many resources in the block. If you need to find out anything, somebody in here will know. If you need to find marketing information, somebody in here will know. It's a wonderful resource for writers. I can't say enough good things about it.
Okay. Well, okay. Everybody in the block's head swelled up now, and
Well,
but that's okay. That's what the block is for, to promote writers, to help writers help each other
I have to say,
get where they're going.
it's a very professional organization, Andy.
Well, I know. I've been there.
I know, but I belong to other organizations that are not as professional in their habits, and I appreciate the block more every day when I try to deal with some of the other people.
I can imagine. Well, look, the block worked for me day one when I walked in the door, and who'd I see was this smiling lady sitting in the chair. And I said, I've been thinking about publishing this book, but nobody seems interested. Sort of like, and...
Well, local books are always of interest to me, and even I would recommend Connie be when I first started with her, and she came back and said, "What are they putting the water down there? Everybody around you writes so well." And, thank you.
Okay, so well, let's talk about what you, as a local publisher, do for local writers. Because, a couple of shows I've been to this year, people have come up and they say, "Oh, published in Cambridge?" I say, "That's right." I say, "Well, that's great. There's a local publisher. That's fantastic." And they want to get behind that. However, writers always are looking for publishing companies, and they deal, they think of the big name ones like Morrow, Random House, Simon & Schuster, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you offer that a big major publisher, for example, what doesn't offer?
Well, we offer the personal touch. A big publisher has a big team. They all have a say in what happens, and the writer has no say. In a small company like mine, you get to pick the cover.
Sometimes you get to do the cover.
You get to say what you want. It may not always go, but you get to say what you want.
Right.
And we try to work with one another. A big publisher has an advertising budget, and that's a big advantage. I don't have that. Authors have to get out there and do their own PR, and if they do, they can sell and sell well. I have a new book out this month called Book Promo 201. This is part of a series, and this woman does PR for writers. It's her profession, and she's also a darn fine writer too, and does novels. But her books, I found, were very helpful, and I'm real proud to have published that. I try to do books for writers. I try to do local books. I have a book selection committee. I don't choose the books myself because I don't want the company to just have my taste.
Right. Right. Well, that's a good thing. I know. Having sweated through that committee, I know it's it's a good idea.
The members of the committee are all published writers. Some I use more than others. Depending on the subject matter, I may change off. If somebody wants to rewrite and resubmit, I'll send it to 3 different people. But there are always 3 members of the committee, and 2 out of 3 means it's a go.
Okay. That sounds pretty good. Now, let's talk about the actual publishing yourself. Now, you have 2 formats. You have the electronic version, and you have the print-on-demand version. Let's start with the electronic version. How does, somebody wants a copy of a book in an electronic edition, what are their choices?
Well, I support 3 formats. PDF, which is portable document format, and that format is very widespread. Any computer will read it. Macs will read it, PCs will read it, any kind of computer will read a PDF if you have the reader software, and it's free.
Free, that's right.
I publish in RTF, which is rich text format, and any kind of word processor in the world will read it. A Brother typewriter will read it, Microsoft Word will read it, any kind of word processor will read RTF. And then there's HTML, which is the hypertext markup language used by computers and the internet, and any device that accesses the internet will read HTML. And so those are the 3 formats I support. Now there are 15 different ebook formats, and each manufacturer has its own format and language in an effort to make you buy the books from them.
Right.
Now, almost all those devices will read one of the 3 formats that I mentioned that we support. And those are the formats I sell on my website, or I make them available. Print on demand, though, we should talk a little about that.
Oh,
Andy,
sure. I was going to get onto that, yeah.
It's a new phenomenon. And when you compare it to a mass market publication, it's very different. A mass market publication is printed by a large company. It's printed in large numbers, and it goes out of print within a year. Otherwise, they have to pay inventory tax, and they will not do that. The
Wow.
taxes are high, and they're unfair, and it's cheaper to dump whatever books they have left on day 364 into a landfill and print more than it is to pay the taxes.
Okay.
So that's one of the differences. A print-on-demand book doesn't go out of print until the author or the publisher or both agree that it should go out of print.
Right. So my first book, for example, has been continuously in print since 2005.
And it does not have an inventory because the book is not printed actually on paper until someone buys it.
Right.
So, I don't have to pay inventory taxes on your books.
Right. It keeps the price down.
It keeps the price down. It's a lot more expensive to print a book one at a time than it is to print them 5,000 at a time, however.
True.
So it means that the books are a little more expensive, but it also means that they don't fill up the landfills. And I think that's an important thing for us to think about, and especially with global warming and all the ecological crisis that we are facing.
So actually, electronic books and print-on-demand books are the greenest type of publishing
Absolutely.
available. And
Absolutely.
now, of course, the big publishers will tell you that the downside of POD is that it's hard to get distributorship in some of the big box stores like Barnes & Noble.
It is absolutely impossible to get distributorship, and I wish I could tell you that it's not. But unfortunately, the distributors who handle mass market books do not want to handle print on demand. They feel very threatened by this technology.
Right. Well, yeah, because people like Washington, Baker and Taylor, stuff like that, they just turn their nose up.
Well, it isn't so much that. They are set up to operate on credit.
Mm-hmm.
If a mass market publisher can print 5,000 copies for 50 cents a piece, they can afford to give these people books on credit. And if the book isn't sold, they rip the covers off, throw the book away, and give them credit for the money back because they don't have that much investment
Into the product.
They don't have that much investment in the product. Every copy of your books that I sell costs me more than $5, not 50 cents.
Right.
On the other hand, they're fine books.
Yes, they are.
They're printed on acid-free paper. They have photographs that look good. They are in all ways the same as a hardback book except for the paper cover. They are high quality, long-lasting books.
And nobody has complained about the covers, Arlene. Trust me, all these years, nobody has complained about that.
Thank you.
Everybody has. In fact, just to give you an example, I had a lady come up to me. I was getting some pizzas last night, and she says, "I know people come up to you all the time." I said, "Well, actually, you're the first." She said, "I just wanted to tell you, I got your book, and it was really good, and I really liked it." So, the product speaks for itself.
Your books are good.
Well, not anyway. Let's talk more about the writing part of it. Let's say, well, not me, but let's say there's somebody out here listening to the show, and they found you on the internet. We'll put some numbers and some websites up on the show so people can get a hold of you if they need to. But
Excellent.
let's say somebody contacts you and they say, "Well, I've got this burning hot bestseller that I really want you to look at. What tips can you give them on submitting to you, and what formats and things like
Well,
that?"
submission guidelines are on the website.
Mm-hmm.
First, we ask people to send us a query letter. We don't take every manuscript that comes to us. We can't. And so we try to be selective. If somebody sends me a 600,000 word novel that they've written in English, although they live in India, perhaps we may think right away that it's going to be too long. First of all, it would be too long to ever put in paper. And length doesn't matter all that much with ebooks, but on the other hand, there's a passage to India. So
That's right, which was,
you never know what you're going to have. And that's the exciting part about this business. When you get a query letter from somebody, you never know whether it's going to be really excellent or something that you could pass by.
But you've got a pretty good stable of writers, though.
Oh, we have some wonderful writers. We do. And a lot of them are block members.
Well, yeah, that's true, because we've had Beverly Lynch on here before, and her book's doing real well up and down the coast. So you're right. I mean, you never know when that one book that's going to take off is going to show up.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about, now, again, more advice for writers. You're got your ear to the ground as far as marketing, things like that, and you do publish some good promotional material when you know, to help people out.
We do our best for that because we are small. We don't have a budget to advertise. We do our best to get our titles out, distributed to a lot of different websites so that they're for sale in a lot of different places. And the ebooks are for sale in a lot of different places, and the print-on-demand books are for sale in as many places as we can get them. Every title we publish is available on our website. It's available on Amazon.com. All the ebooks are available on FictionWise.com, on MobyPocket.com. Because the more places that book is, the more places it can sell. And a lot of customers get used to one place, and that's the only place they go.
Right, I understand that, and I've noticed on doing searches on some of our books from Europe Publisher end up in Europe, and for sale on European websites at ridiculously high prices at times. Somebody told me there was a copy of my book Crimson Need for sale in Germany for $100. I'm like, well, I'd like to have a piece of that, but that's just the nature of distribution, I guess.
Amazon has a worldwide arm. I don't like to choose one particular website over another. FictionWise is a wonderful website. It publishes ebooks in every format. No matter what kind of machine you've got, you can go there, you can register, you can tell them what kind you have, and they'll sell you what you need to work in your machine.
Okay. Well,
Moby Pocket is a European company. They have their own language. It downloads into any kind of reader device. And it's a very good, clear, clean language, and Amazon bought them out 3 years ago because they wanted the language for Kindle when Kindle was in the planning stages.
oh, okay.
Okay, so now, at that time, I was already selling books to Moby or posting books to Moby Pocket so that they would be for sale. And it's a European company.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, but then when Amazon bought it and Kindle came out, everything you had on Moby Pocket automatically went to Kindle.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
that
it
was a
gives
good
you
thing. You got
another
more choice,
market.
right? And another market.
Here's the beauty of it. You don't have to do a thing. The computers do it all.
Yeah, well, that's handy. You're right. Okay, well, last few minutes, let's talk a little bit more about some more tips for writers that haven't broke into publishing yet. Now, like I say, you hear the trends and stuff like that as a publisher. What's if I was a writer casting around for something to write about, what's selling? What should they be trying to push out these days?
Well, at my company, certain things sell better than others. Your books are nonfiction
Right.
because of the nature of them, but they sell very well. All my other nonfiction authors don't do as well. I have a lot of trouble selling nonfiction books.
Okay.
So you can't really say, this is the trend, this will be successful.
Well, how about fiction then? I mean, anything?
Well,
I mean, we've talked about vampires, for example. we say vampires are always in demand because they're sexy. But what? Anything else that's hot right now?
I can't think of any one particular book at this moment. I just published another Bonanza novel.
Oh, that's
It's
right. I
called
remember
Mystic
that, yeah.
Fire. And usually I don't do fan fiction because it's a copyright violation,
Right,
but this author has permission from David Dortort to use those characters, and she's done several books with the Bonanza characters, and they're very popular. Romance is always hot, and we distribute to allromance.com
Okay.
as well as some of the other ebook sites because people, and those girls have done a wonderful job, excuse me, ladies. Those women have done a wonderful job getting news out about that website, and they advertise in Romantic Times, and their sales have gone through the roof.
Okay. So bottom line though, with your company, because you're smaller and don't have the advertising budget, the author itself has to
Has to get the word out.
Right. They've got to go out and be a little self-starter here on doing the promotional part and make themselves available.
And
like me today. After I leave out of here today, I'm heading up to the beach to go talk to a couple of book dealers.
Absolutely. And if you get the word out about your book, and we have information on the website about how to write press releases, how to get attention for your book, people will not come and buy a book if they've never heard of it. They don't know it's there unless you tell them. And I can't afford to advertise in Publishers Weekly and places like that to let them know. On the other hand, when an author gets out the way you do, Andy, the way Gianni does, the way my Bonanza lady does, those authors do very well, and they sell steadily over a long period of time.
There you go. So advice now to writers is not only do you have to be a good writer, but you've got to be good at selling yourself, because like they say in all sales jobs, you're selling yourself. So the market has changed from the old days, and you've just got to be a little more savvy about the marketplace.
That's true.
So we're just about out of time, but any last thoughts or advice you want to give to folks that are like we were many years ago, thinking about writing or trying to write, trying to figure out what to do? Anything you want to say to them?
Apply the seat of the pants to the seat of the chair and the hands to the keyboard. That's the first advice, because you can talk about writing for 40 years the way I did, but until you actually do it, you're not going to have a product. The other thing is to don't hide your light under a bushel. Let people know. Join Twitter. Get on Facebook. These things are free, and you can do them for yourself, and you can let people know about your work. And when they know and are interested, that's when they'll go find you. And the internet, when I started writing, the internet was something only colleges had heard about. Now it's there for all of us, and it's a wonderful tool. A wonderful tool.
Okay, all right. Well, we're out of time, folks. I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Right Stuff, co-production of Pack 14 and the Writer's Block of the Eastern Shore. Don't forget, this is Pack 14's anniversary, so celebrate Pack 14 by visiting the website, pack14.org, where you can get schedules for our shows, listen to us on the audio also with Talk of the Town. I want to thank my guest, Arline Chase, wonderful lady, my publisher, so I can't say enough good things about her. There'll be some contact information for you, but look her up, check her out, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks again.
Would you like to see your community organization or nonprofit group featured on PAC 14? To get started, contact us at 410-677-5014 or visit our website at www.pac14.org. PAC 14 is a great way to connect with your community.